Does your sprint planning feel like a 4-hour marathon of confusion? Do you start tasks only to realize halfway through the week that nobody actually knows what done looks like? If that sounds familiar, you don't have a planning problem, you have a backlog refinement problem. We're going to look at a few ways to clean up that backlog chaos, from refining your definition of ready to using the rule of 8 to keep your stories manageable. These are the tools that help get a team moving again. Let's get into it. In physics, entropy is the natural slide into disorder. In software, entropy is what happens to your backlog when you don't touch it for 3 weeks. It becomes a junk drawer of half-baked ideas and outdated requests. The real goal of refinement is to fight that entropy. It's not just a meeting, it's an ongoing effort to reduce uncertainty. Think of it like a funnel. High-level ideas go in the top, and clear, actionable tasks come out the bottom. To keep that funnel moving, many teams lean on the deep guide to check the health of their backlog. Detailed appropriately, you don't need a 10-page spec for a feature you're building in 6 months. Focus your detail on what's coming in the next 1 or 2 sprints. Estimated, items at the top should have a rough size attached. If you can't estimate it, it's a sign that the item isn't understood well enough yet. Emergent. A backlog is a living document. If a customer changes their mind or the market shifts, the backlog should shift too. It's okay to delete things. Prioritized. The most valuable stuff stays at the top. Simple as that. If everything is a priority, nothing is. By keeping the backlog deep, you ensure that when Monday morning hits, the team isn't wondering what to do. They're already focused on how to do it. Let's talk about estimation. Now, there are many ways to do this. Some teams use t-shirt sizes, some use no estimates. But today we're looking at one of the most common and effective approaches used by teams worldwide, the Fibonacci Scale. A common mistake is thinking we're trying to predict exactly how many hours a task will take. But we aren't psychics. We estimate to find alignment. If I think a task is a 2 and you think it's an 8, it's a red flag that we have a totally different understanding of the work. To find that alignment, many teams use planning poker. It's pretty simple. Everyone has a deck of cards with the Fibonacci scale, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13. The product owner explains a story, and everyone reveals their card at the same time. This prevents anchoring, where a junior dev just agrees with whatever the lead dev says. If the numbers are wildly different, you have a conversation, clarify the scope, and vote again. But why use those specific numbers? As a task gets bigger, our ability to be precise disappears. There's no point arguing if a task is a 6 or a 7. The uncertainty is too high. The jump from 5 to 8 forces the team to acknowledge that risk. When you're voting, try to look at 3 specific pillars. Complexity. How intellectually difficult is this? Is it architecting a new microservice or adding a new field to a database? One requires deep problem solving. The other is a known path. Effort. Even if the task is simple, is there a lot of it? For example, updating the CSS for a single button is a 2. But updating that same button style across 50 different legacy pages is an 8. The logic isn't harder, but the grunt work and the surface area for mistakes are much larger. Risk and uncertainty. Are we working with an undocumented third-party API? Is the legacy code we're touching covered by unit tests? The more unknowns there are, the higher that Fibonacci number needs to climb. And here is a practical rule of thumb to keep things moving. The rule of 8. If the team estimates a story at an 8 or a 13, it's usually a signal that the story is either too big or too vague to fit into a single sprint. That's our trigger to start story splitting, which we'll get into next. So, the team voted an 8. What now? If you pull that into a sprint, it'll likely drag on for days, block other tasks, and probably won't be finished by the review. The solution isn't to work faster, it's to split the story. Story splitting is an art, but you don't have to overcomplicate it. Here are 3 common ways to break a big ticket down into smaller, ready pieces. The workflow split. Look at the steps a user takes. Instead of a giant story called user can check out and pay, you split it by the process. Ticket A is user can enter shipping details. Ticket B is user can pay with a credit card. Ticket C is user can pay with PayPal. Each one is a smaller testable piece of value. Happy path versus exceptions. This is a huge time saver. Build the perfect scenario first, the one where the user enters everything correctly and the server works perfectly. That's your first 3-point story. Then create separate tickets for the exceptions, like handling expired credit cards or server timeouts. It allows the team to get the core logic done without getting bogged down in edge cases on day one. The V1, or thin slice. Ask yourself, what's the simplest version of this? If the request is for a full reporting dashboard with charts, maybe the first slice is just generate a raw CSV export. It's not as pretty, but it proves the data is correct and gives the user value immediately while you build the fancy UI in the next sprint. The goal here isn't just to make the numbers smaller. It's to create independent stories. When you split an 8 into 3 smaller stories, you create more opportunities for done, which keeps the momentum of the sprint high. But sometimes you can't even split a story because you simply don't have enough information to know what's inside it. In those cases, you don't guess. You use a spike. We've all been there during a refinement session. The team is looking at a story, and the conversation just circles. Nobody knows if the new library is compatible with our version of React, or if the legacy API can even handle the data load. You can't estimate it, but you can't just ignore it either. This is where you trigger a spike. In the world of Agile, a spike is a time-boxed research task. It's not about writing production-ready code. It's about writing just enough throwaway code to answer a specific question and kill that uncertainty. To keep a spike from turning into a rabbit hole, I recommend using a simple template. The question, be laser-focused. Instead of research the API, use can the API return user data in under 200 milliseconds? The success criteria, what do we need to see at the end? Usually it's a demo of a prototype, a technical recommendation, or a refined estimate for the actual story. The time box. This is the most important part. A spike shouldn't last a whole sprint. Give it 2 to 4 hours, maybe a day at most. If you can't find the answer in that time, you've at least learned that the problem is bigger than you thought. The beauty of a spike is that it protects your velocity. Instead of pulling a mystery ticket into your sprint and watching it fail, you pull in a spike. By the end of it, you have the knowledge to refine the real story for the next sprint. It turns we don't know into now we're ready. So, you've estimated the story, you've split it down, and you've cleared the technical hurdles with a spike. Is it time to pull it into the sprint? Not quite. First, it has to pass your definition of ready. Think of the definition of ready, or DOR, as a quality gate. If the definition of done tells you when a task is finished, the DOR tells you if the task is even fit to start. We don't want developers starting a ticket only to realize 3 days in that they're missing a design or an API key. A great way to check if a story is ready is the INVEST model. We're looking to see if the story is independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small, and testable. If it hits those marks, you're in a good spot. But for your day-to-day checklist, try looking for these 4 essentials. Clear acceptance criteria. This is the big one. You need 3 to 5 pass-fail checkboxes. Instead of saying the user can search, say the user can search by name, and results appear in under 1 second. If you can't test it, it's not ready. No outside blockers. If the story depends on a third-party vendor who hasn't given us access yet, or a design that's still in progress, it is not ready. Don't pull it in and hope for the best. That's how sprints stall. Visual context. For UI tasks, a link to the Figma or a wireframe should be right in the ticket. No one should be guessing what a button looks like while they're coding it. The DOR isn't a checklist the product owner completes alone. The whole team needs to look at the ticket and say, yes, we have enough info to commit to this. It might feel like extra work up front, but a solid DOR is the best defense against sprint bloat. It ensures that when the clock starts, the team is actually building, not just hunting for information. Now that you have the frameworks, how do you actually run the meeting without everyone checking their emails. Here are 3 tips to keep your refinement sessions high energy and high value. The 3 Amigos pregame. Don't bring a blank page to the whole team. Have the product owner, a developer, and a QA tester meet for 15 minutes before the main session. They scrub the stories, fix typos, and ensure the basic why is there. It's much better than making 10 people wait while one person edits a ticket live. Time box every story. Parkinson's law says work expands to fill the time available. Don't let one story eat the whole hour. Set a timer for 8 minutes. If you can't reach an estimate or a definition of ready by then, the story is too complex. Mark it for a spike or a follow-up and move to the next one. Visuals over verbiage. If a story starts getting complicated, stop talking and start drawing. Pull up a virtual whiteboard like Miro or FigJam. If you can't sketch the user flow or the data path, you don't actually understand the requirement yet. At the end of the day, refinement is just about clarity. When the team truly understands the why, they build much better hows. You don't need to be perfect at this on day 1. Just focus on making your backlog a little more deep every week. If you found this helpful and want more quick tips to boost your productivity, hit the like button and subscribe. Thanks for watching.